Welcome to the fifth module of how to build chatbots. So far, we've created a basic but functioning chatbot. The problem is that it's currently available only from the Try It Out panel after you log in. If you wish to share it with some friends or actual end users, you are not able to, unless you give them your login information, something you should never do. What we need to do is deploy our chatbot somewhere publicly accessible. As you worked on the dialogue skill in the previous module, you might have noticed that alongside skills, there was a tab for assistants. An assistant is a chatbot, and it can have one or more skills within it. We developed a dialogue skill that allows the chatbot to understand and reply to the user. Now we'll need to create the actual assistant and link our dialogue skill to it. Doing so will allow our chatbot to be deployed through various channels, including WordPress sites, Facebook Messenger, Intercom, Slack, your own application, etc. Some coding skills are required for the more advanced deployments, such as your own web or mobile application. But thankfully, in this course, we'll deploy the chatbot without having to write any code. If you are a programmer, the API for Watson Assistant is well documented with examples in JavaScript and Python. When you create an assistant, you are given the option to enable a preview link. Doing so is a good idea as it gives you a page where anyone with your link can try out your chatbot. So it's a great way to let colleagues, friends, or even customer try out your chatbot on the web. This widget works by sending the user input to the Watson Assistant service you created, retrieving the response of your dialogue skill, and presenting it to the user. If your site is powered by the open source version of WordPress, you can greatly simplify the deployment of your chatbot thanks to a plugin that we developed. You install the plugin with one click, copy over the credentials from your assistant, and your chatbot will magically appear on your site. WordPress is incredibly popular and used by about a third of all sites on the web. Having the ability to deploy your chatbots on WordPress really simplifies the process of making your chatbot available to the public at large. The plugin is extremely convenient and flexible, allowing you to customize the look and feel of your chatbot window. It also includes many powerful features, such as the ability to limit the number of conversations that your chatbot can have, so that it doesn't exceed your free monthly allowance. You can also prevent abusive users from using up your quota by spamming your chatbot. Other cool features include the ability to escalate your request to a human, log your conversation, and more. It pays off to spend some time investigating the features once you install the plugin. In the labs for this module, you'll generate a test WordPress site, so you don't need to have a WordPress site of your own. Please note also that WordPress.com is a commercial offering of the open-source WordPress software located at WordPress.org. As a result, they actually charge quite a bit to allow people to install plugins. So I don't recommend that you create a WordPress.com account and try to install our Watson Assistant plugin there. Instead, at least while you're learning, you should use the site that is provided to you in the labs. Once you generated the WordPress site, you'll be tasked with activating and configuring the plugin so that it can communicate with the assistant that you'll create. This assistant will in turn be linked to the dialogue skill you've been working on so far. Once the chatbot is deployed on your WordPress test site, you'll be able to make changes to the chatbot directly within Watson Assistant, and these changes and improvements will be automatically reflected in the chatbot that's deployed on your site. Welcome to the sixth module of how to build chatbots. Now that you know the fundamentals of chatbot building and how to deploy your chatbot to a WordPress site, it is time to look at more advanced features. We'll do so in this and the next module of the course. In this module, we'll focus on two important concepts that can really take your chatbot to the next level, namely context variables and slots. Consider the following interaction. The user asks the chatbot about hours of operation for a specific location. The chatbot replies correctly. Then the user asks for the address of the store, and the chatbot replies with a generic list of all stores instead of the specific information. A human answering the same question would understand from the context that the user is asking about the location they already mentioned, but our current chatbot does not. The reason why this happens is that entities are captured and exist only during the current user input. There is no memory of them once the user enters new questions. So, even though the Toronto store was mentioned before, we have no recollection when the user asks us for its address. The only way this would work as expected would be if the user were to repeat Toronto again in their request for an address. Unfortunately, we can't control how people choose to phrase their questions, and it would be uncommon for the average user to repeat Toronto again when it's obvious from the context of the conversation. This is the problem that context variables allow us to solve. At any time in any node of our dialog, we can store values we collected from the user for later use. Unlike entities, context variables remain available for the entire duration of the conversation with the user, so we can refer back to them at any time. We could, for example, store the location entity value in a city context variable in the node that handles hours of operation. Then, when we hit the location info node, we can look into the city context variable to see if a value has been set. If it has, we can use it to provide a specific address to the user. There are a few ways to set context variables, but one of the most convenient ways is using slots. We could, for example, add an optional slot to our node and check for a location entity. If one is found in the user input, the value will then be stored in the city context variable. It is optional because we don't force the user to give us a city. We simply assign it if one is provided. So when the user asks a generic hours of operation question without specifying a location, no context variable is set, and we can reply with a link to a page that includes all our locations and hours of operations. But if a location is specified, we store it in the city context variable through the slot, and then use it in our multiple responses within the same node to provide the specific hours of operation for the given location, in this case, Vancouver. We can make the slot required by adding a question that the chatbot will ask whenever no location is provided by the user. When the user asks, "What are your hours of operation?" without mentioning a city, our chatbot will then reply with, "For which city?" The slot will not give up asking the question until a valid answer is provided. Once the user provides the specific city, it will get stored in the context variable as usual, and the multiple responses in the node will handle the specific response for the city at hand. It's also worth noting that you can have multiple slots within the same node. In fact, this is the most valuable aspects of using slots. They are great at collecting information from the user, especially when multiple follow-up questions need to be asked. For example, consider the case of a restaurant chatbot's booking a reservation for a customer. The chatbot will ask how many guests and then store the number in an appropriate context variable. Then it might ask the date, then the time, and finally which name the reservation should be made under. Each of these questions is one slot within this hypothetical reservation node. Once the information has been collected and stored in the context, the restaurant will have access to the data needed to book the reservation in. This could be done manually by checking the logs, or through a bit of programming by making the node make a call to an API server to schedule the reservation in whatever table system the restaurant adopts. I wanted to give you a decent theoretical understanding of what problems context variables and slots solve. However, as it's often the case, the only way to truly master these concepts is for you to practice them. The labs in this module will get you to improve your chatbot by employing some of the techniques discussed here. Welcome to the 7th module of how to build chatbots. At this point, you should have a solid understanding of what context variables and slots bring to the table. There is still one problem we're facing that we don't have a solution for yet. Consider the following interaction. The user asks the chatbot for some flower recommendations. The slot will ask for what occasion. Instead of replying with an occasion, the user decides to ask about hours of operation. The slot will continue to pester the user, asking for the occasion and ignoring other questions from the user, even though technically the chatbot knows how to answer such questions. The problem is that required slots won't quit asking their question until an acceptable answer has been provided and stored in a context variable. One option we have to make the interaction less obnoxious is to configure the Not Found section of a slot. Found and Not Found sections allow us to specify what the slot will say to the end user when they reply with an acceptable answer and when they don't, respectively. Typically, you'll use the Found section to thank the user for answering your question, or just leave it blank as it is by default. More interestingly, however, we can use the Not Found section to make asking the same question again less awkward. In other words, we can soften the blow of ignoring their second question by apologizing for having to ask the question again. Here is a practical example of how configuring the Not Found section of a slot can make the interaction a little smoother. You'll notice that when the user asks us an unrelated question while the slot is asking for the specific occasion, we don't just repeat the question verbatim. In this case, we say something like, "Sorry to ask again, but what occasion would you like flower recommendations for?" It comes across as significantly more empathetic and less robotic, even though technically we are still asking the same question. This is an improvement, but wouldn't it be great to be able to answer the aside question we received from the user and then come back to the original question? That's what a human agent would do in most circumstances. It turns out this is possible thanks to digressions. We can allow a slot to jump to a different node after having asked the mandatory question, and we can specify that other nodes can return back to an originating slot after answering the user's aside question. Let's see a practical example of how this would work. When the user ignores our request for a specific occasion, asking our chatbot to provide store hours instead, digressions allow us to jump to the node that handles hours of operations. Since that node has a slot too, that slot will ask its own question about which city are the store hours for. Once the user replies with Toronto, the node will provide the information to the user and return to the original node where the slot will ask about the occasion once again. This is a workflow that works quite well and makes our chatbot come across as smarter and friendlier. In some instances, you might not want to return, but instead continue the conversation from the node you jumped to. With digressions, you'll have a chance to specify the desired behavior, including which slots can digress to other nodes, which nodes can accept digressions, and whether a return is required. It's a powerful and genuinely useful feature. So where exactly do we specify the found and not found text for a slot? And where do we configure digressions? The nitty-gritty details are, as you probably guessed, in the labs for this module. You'll get to play with these new features that will make our simple chatbot more useful and user-friendly. Keep in mind that these features are somewhat advanced. I know plenty of people who built great chatbots without understanding or relying on them. Still, having a precursory understanding of the advanced concepts presented in this and the previous module will really pay off once you start building your own chatbots, whether for yourself, your company, or paying clients. Congratulations on reaching the end of this course. I hope you enjoyed it. Above all, I hope that you feel more confident in your ability to create chatbots. By now, you should be much more familiar with chatbots and how to leverage Watson Assistant to create, test, deploy, and improve your chatbot without having to write any code. You might be wondering what's next, so let's review some possible next steps for you. First and foremost, if you haven't completed the course quizzes and exam, make sure you do so. Next, if you are taking this course as part of a learning path or specialization, you might consider other Watson-based courses that expand upon the fundamentals you mastered within this course. I also recommend that you check out and read the official Watson Assistant documentation. It has a wealth of knowledge and will allow you to learn about some finer points we couldn't cover in this course. I highly recommend it, in particular to programmers who took this course. The documentation covers some advanced features that will be available to those who have programming experience or are not afraid of giving it a shot. On that note, if you are a programmer, you may want to check out the IBM Code Patterns site, where you'll find sample code related to, among others, chatbots and artificial intelligence. Many of these patterns leverage Watson Assistant along with other Watson services to create smart and useful chatbots. One such service is actually available to everyone, even if you don't have programming skills. I'm talking about IBM Voice Agent with Watson, a plug-and-play service that connects to your Watson Assistant chatbot to make it available over the phone. Same chatbot, just over audio rather than text. This is something your business or your clients might find highly appealing, so it's worth checking out in the IBM Cloud catalog. In my experience as someone who also loves to learn online, courses like this are great at providing an overview of what's possible and how you might go about accomplishing a given task. I have given you the lay of the land, if you will, but you won't truly master these concepts unless you take the time to create something on your own. We humans tend to learn by doing. So use these videos as much as needed. Reference the Watson Assistant documentation as you see fit. Take a look at the code patterns examples, but try to come up with your own chatbot to polish and fine-tune your skills as a chatbot builder. If you have questions in the process of creating your own chatbot, feel free to pose them in the discussion forum for this course. Finally, I'd like to invite you to stay in touch. You can follow and interact with me on Twitter. My username is ACAngiano. Also, if you build something cool after taking the course, feel free to share it with me there. If you don't use Twitter or would like a more private setting, you can also email me at cangiano.ca.ibm.com to show me what you built. We are more than happy to feature people who make good use of our AI technology. So this could be your opportunity to have your project or company featured somewhere on the IBM site. I look forward to seeing what you'll build. All the best to you, and good luck.
Congratulations on completing my course on building chatbots without programming. I hope you enjoyed the course. By now, you should have a much clearer picture of why chatbots matter, the business opportunity they provide, and how to go about creating them. This course laid the foundation for you, showing you how to leverage Watson Assistant for the creation of simple but useful chatbots. Now that you know the basics, you might wonder what's next. My recommendation is that you start building your own chatbot, whether it's a personal chatbot for your own homepage or a chatbot that serves a business need. There's no substitute for real practice. Beyond that, I would suggest that you pursue your chatbot education, if you will, further by taking another course of mine called Building AI Applications with Watson APIs. It's the logical follow-up course as it teaches you how to create more advanced AI applications and chatbots by integrating Watson Assistant with other AI services such as discovery and speech APIs. This allows you to leverage your newly acquired chatbot building skills and take them further by adding in some coding. In fact, if you enjoyed this course and see the potential in AI, I would recommend that you set yourself apart from the competition by enrolling in the AI specialization or professional certificate offered by IBM here on Coursera. I look forward to seeing you succeed.